Good morning. It is Friday, March 24th, 2022, 7:30 in the morning. Just got up, got myself ready. Going to be heading down to get breakfast and meet up with the operating crew today, and we're going to be heading down to the Boeing Employees Model Railroad Club in Burien. So this will be the first proper op session of SoundRails. So I'm going to go get ready and get some breakfast and see you there. So I've now arrived at the Boeing Employees Model Railroad Club in Burien, Washington. And here I'm just going to do a little handheld walk around tour of the layout. I'm here in their staging area right now. The two staging yards represent Seattle and Omak, Washington, respectively, with Seattle on the bottom and Omak on the top. And then on the bottom level, you can see Ballard. And on the top level, you can see the Twist logging camp, where I will be operating at shortly. Then down below you can see the Edmonds lumber mill, which I also switch out during this session. And as you will be able to see, there's still a lot of construction work that still needs to be done in terms of the engine servicing area and the Seattle waterfront, or the Everett waterfront rather. But there's the engine servicing area. And then the main yard you can see there, that's Everett. And then over on the right, you can see the climb up over the Cascades towards the town of Concrete. So the main yard there. And you can't see it right now, but in front of all those people is the North Everett passenger station. So that's like the big Union Station. Here's some bridges. Then there's a really neat little branch line here that runs out towards a port town called Fairhaven that has a paper mill as well as some other industries. Really nice trestle scene there. And as you can see on this side, there's also a really cool bridge scene here as well. So really neat little setup they got going on here. Well, it's actually quite large, but nevertheless pretty cool. And then I'm just walking back around the other way, going into staging, just to give you the full picture of the layout. So this is the paperwork that operators of the Seattle North Cascades, which is the name of the proto-freelance railroad that the Boeing Club operates, receive upon arrival at an operating session. They get their radio, their earpiece, and then an employee timetable that basically tells you all the track layouts and industry placements and spot placements, that if there's a specific spot at an industry, as well as a flow chart showing you where all the towns are. And then this next sheet right here is a station sheet. So just a brief introduction for the orientation, and then I'm on to running my first train, which is the Twist Blogger, pulled by a Bachmann 280 consolidation. So this job was pretty simple. It was just running loaded log cars down to the mainline interchange from the Twist lumber camp, and then swapping out empties and running them back up the hill. So it was a fairly simple job, and really didn't cover as much of the railroad as I hoped it would, but nevertheless, it was still a nice way to start the session.
Right, yeah.
So as you can see at the end of that last shot there, there's a lot of use of magnetic uncouplings on this layout. So me personally, it's not necessarily something I prefer while operating. However, it's something that definitely helps when you have spaces that you can't really reach with an uncoupling pick or anything like that. So anyways, I'm running the logger back up the branch, and after that I will be replacing the empties with loads at the lumber camp and getting ready for the next run back down to the interchange. And now that the logger is complete, I was called to run the Edmonds Turn, which operates from Everett Yard west to Edmonds, where it will switch the lumber mill. And you'll have to forgive the occasional hand or arm or controller getting in the shot because, again, this is being filmed during an actual operating session, and I want to capture and document this operating session as it is, so I'm not necessarily trying to be professional here. But anyways, here's the train pulling into the Edmonds mill, and in the next few shots you'll see a time lapse of me switching the mill and getting ready for the run back to Edmonds. So in all, this is a fairly simple local freight to run, fairly straightforward, but it was nice. It was a nice little run nonetheless. So enjoy this time lapse. And once this train clears the shot here, I will be moving on to my next job I took during the session, which was the concrete local. And this job was fairly simple. Mainly just ran some limestone loads up to the cement plant at Concrete, turned the engine, and head back with some loaded cement hoppers. So I decided I'd choose this really nice Malley locomotive from the engine service facility. And you'll probably see another hand in the shot here, but heading out of Everett Yard with a Great Northern train on the other track. I think it was a manifest just running through. But yeah, heading out of Everett, going to be going up the Cascades and going to the cement plant. Now, unfortunately, I forgot to film the actual operations in the plant, but nonetheless, I did get the engine on the turntable, and here's a time lapse of it going around. And lastly, this is the last shot I really cared to take during the op session at Boeing Model Railroad Club, which is the concrete local with its loaded cement hoppers heading down the grade from heading down Cascades back to Everett. So that's about all I cared to shoot at the Boeing Model Railroad Club. While it was definitely a fun session, I'll be completely honest, it did have its flaws in terms of operating systems and whatnot, but those are things that'll be improved in due time. So anyways, after the session, I went and visited Lee Marsh's Great Northern Model Railroad in Issaquah, which is like about half an hour from Burien. And even though this layout isn't really all that large, and it's fairly simple in its track design and whatnot, it's still one of the great highlights of the trip for me because, as you can see, the scenery on this is just exquisite. I mean, Lee did an absolutely fantastic job, to put it lightly, in terms of all the scenery techniques he used and how great his trains run, and the weathering job and the details and all the rolling stock and stuff like that. And even though, as you could probably be able to tell, this layout was not originally built for operations, he has come up with an operating scheme for the layout. And here's just a quick shot of his shelf where he has all these really nice models on display. And yeah, as I was saying, he has come up with an operating scheme for the railroad using car cards and waybills and running trains different directions and stuff like that. So I'd be curious to see how it all works out. But yeah, it's nice to see that he is in fact operating it. So here's that Great Northern freight train that was just kind of running around for display purposes on the upper level of the railroad, which represents going over the Cascades through the Cascade Tunnel and so on and so forth. And right here is probably one of my all-time favorite shots that I took on this tour, which of the freight train going around this really nice bend, going into the tunnel and going down the helix to the yard at Everett.
Basically, you get trains staged going this way, and you can walk around the back and see how it's staged. And so if it comes around the base here, it's coming from Seattle.
Okay.
If it comes on this loop, it's from Vancouver, Bellingham.
Okay.
From here, so this would be Delta Y.
Okay.
And then if it's coming from St. Paul, it would go opposite of this train up the helix, across, down the other helix, and come into Everett from the east this way. So you can get them set in there properly. And then when you go back on the stage, you've got 5 tracks there by keeping one open. And so we were talking about these crossovers down there. You can use those to restage the train and get them going in the right direction. So it's kind of a lot.
And of course, I had to take one more shot of it going over this high steel trestle just past the Everett / Bayside / Delta Yard area.
I've got a little sample down here. I'll show you. They're amazing. They come they're ready to put up, and you can bend them, undo them, and they're done. I worked for months doing this first part with the box, and then a week doing the rest. I really like it. Because the era
And the final shot of this video, and also the final shot of my visit to Lee Marsh's layout, is this Great Northern steam engine taking a spin on the turntable here at the yard. So while somebody else was running around the freight train around, I asked if I could run a little switch engine in the yard, and Lee said yes. So I had a fun little time running a little 060 switcher. And even though it's such a small brass engine, that thing ran like a charm. Just so smooth and just absolutely crawled along the rails. So that was really something. Anyways, that about does it for this installment. And the next video, I'll be operating my first S-scale layout, that being the New York, Westchester, and Boston. And yeah, stay tuned for that. So this is Model Railroad Operations signing off.
This would be